Following violent protests in the Israeli city of Tel-Aviv over the weekend, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling for the immediate expulsion of those who took part. Let's find out what happened from Almar Forsuelo.
On Saturday, violent clashes erupted between pro- and anti-Eritrean government supporters in the city of Tel Aviv when the Eritrean embassy was due to hold an event. Activists had earlier warned the embassy against hosting the gathering, but they say authorities didn't heed their warning. More than 150 people were injured, as well as at least 30 wounded police officials, according to reports. Pieces of lumber, metal and rocks were thrown between the two camps in a neighborhood in the south of Tel Aviv where most asylum seekers live. Protesters also smashed shop windows and vehicles, including police cars. Israeli law enforcement personnel equipped in riot gear responded by deploying tear gas, stun grenades, and live rounds, with mounted officers attempting to manage the protesters and disperse the mob. The following day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened a special ministerial committee meeting in Jerusalem in response to the recent outbreak of violent riots involving Eritrean immigrants in Tel Aviv. During the forum, Netanyahu said he is seeking strong steps against the rioters, including the immediate expulsion of those who took part, and expects a complete and updated plan to repatriate all of the remaining illegal infiltrators from the country.
עכשיו נשארה בעיה רצינית עם המסתננים הבלתי חוקיים בדרום תל אביב, במקומות אחרים, אבל מה שקרה אתמול היה חציית קו אדום. זה התפרעות, זה שפיכות דמים, זה פרעות שאנחנו לא יכולים לקבל. ולכן הדבר הראשון שאני עושה הוא לאחל החלמה לשוטרים שנפצעו במהלך הניסיונות להחזיר את הסדר. אנחנו מבקשים צעדים חזקים נגד המתפרעים, כולל גירוש מיידי של אלה שנטלו חלק בזה. אני מתקשה להבין מדוע תהיה לנו בעיה עם אלה שהם מכריזים שהם בעצמם תומכי המשטר, ולכן הם בוודאי לא יכולים לטעון טענת פליטות. בכל מקרה, אני מבקש גם שהפורום הזה יכין תוכנית שלמה, מעודכנת, להוצאתם של כל שאר המסתננים הבלתי חוקיים ממדינת ישראל, וזה התכלית של ההתכנסות הזאת היום. תודה רבה.
Furthermore, United Nations or UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said Monday that he was alarmed by the high number of injuries during recent clashes in Israel involving Eritrean protesters, adding it is crucial that investigations take place and hate speech is avoided, especially by authorities, and that the principle of non-refoulement is fully respected. It can be noted that more than 17,000 Eritrean asylum seekers currently reside in Israel, with many of them having entered the country illegally via the border with Egypt. This is Almar Forsuelo reporting, SMNI News.
The Philippines embassy in Israel led the wreath-laying ceremony to commemorate the 145th birthday of former President Manuel L. Quezon and to honor his legacy in fostering good relations between the Philippines and Israel. Rosafi added reports.
To commemorate President Manuel L. Quezon's 145th birth and 79th death anniversary, the Philippine-Israel Embassy led a solemn wreath-laying ceremony at the Open Doors Monument in Vision Lezion, participated by some Filipino community leaders, Holocaust survivors, and government officials.
The Open Doors Monument honors former President Quezon's compassionate act of providing refuge to 1,300 Jews fleeing Europe during the Holocaust in the late 1930s. The late president's rescue of Jewish refugees, also known as Manilaners, has since become a significant foundation of the Philippines-Israel relations. It is important to continue honoring former President Quezon's legacy and shine a light on his open-door policy. The participation of the living Manilaners and their kin, the Filipino community in Israel, and the Rishon LeZion municipality made the commemoration more meaningful. The initiative will help create more awareness of the sad event in Israeli society and therefore foster our friendship and good relations with this country. Jewish refugees were admitted to the archipelago due to the effort of Quezon, who served as the second president of the Philippines after the late Emilio Aguinaldo. He established the open door policy by issuing Proclamation Number 173 on August 21, 1937, which paved the way for Filipinos to welcome refugees and provide refuge to 1,300 Jews. The program started by playing the national anthems of both countries, namely Lupang Hinirang and Hatikva. The wreath-laying ceremony was headed by Philippine Ambassador to Israel, Pedro Lilo Jr., accompanied by Madam Carrie-Jane D. Lilo. Also in attendance were Mayor and Council Member Michael Raif, who represented the Israeli city of Rishon LeZion, Mayor Raz Kenslich, along with Director Annette Bin Shachar, Mr. Johnny Weisler, representing the Manila nurse, together with her kin Asher, Daisy, and Dorelise Goffer. The event was highlighted by the message of the Philippines ambassador to Israel, as he stated that we should not only honor former Philippine President Manuel L. Quezon, but also live the ideals he had stood and fought for. He also urged Filipinos to follow in his footsteps of being champions of open doors, open minds, and open hearts.
Indeed, one of Quezon's most enduring legacies was providing safe haven in the Philippines for Jewish refugees fleeing Europe during the Holocaust. Quezon's humanitarian act, amidst the darkest time of persecution and rejection of the Jewish people, shown as a testament to the Filipinos' compassion and love of fellow men, which we call in our language as malasakit. 1,300 Jews were saved from the horrors of Nazi Germany because of Quezon's efforts.
The open door policy showed the humanitarian spirit of the Filipino people, where love, compassion, and mercy are the basic foundation of culture and tradition, at the same time displaying the unwavering dedication to freedom, democracy, and human rights. Midafakat mit Tel Aviv, this has been Rosafi Adut, SMNI News, Israel.
In France, female Muslim students have been banned from wearing abayas in schools as the new academic year begins. Margaret Percasio files this report.
On Monday, September 4th, French authorities imposed a newly announced ban which prohibits female Muslim students from wearing the abaya, a loose-fitting full-length outer garment worn by Muslim women. The ban applies to all state-run schools across the country. This was earlier announced in August, following months of debate on the issue. In addition to the abaya ban in schools, male Muslim students will also be banned from wearing kameez, a long dress traditionally worn by Muslim men. It can be noted that there are around 45,000 educational institutions in France, where an estimated number of 12 million students returned to school on Monday. French President Emmanuel Macron uncompromisingly stood firm on the government's decision. Quote, "Schools in our country are secular, free and compulsory. But they are secular because this is the very condition that makes citizenship possible, and therefore religious symbols of any kind have no place in them. And we will vigorously defend the secularism." He added, "In high schools or colleges, which are the most sensitive, specific staff will be sent alongside the heads of establishments and teachers to support them and to engage in a necessary dialogue with families and students. But we won't let anything pass." End of quote. Moreover, Education and Youth Minister Gabriel Attal described girls and boys wearing the robes in schools as an infringement on secularism, a foundational principle for France. He accused some students of using the traditional attire to try to destabilize schools. According to Attal, quote, "When you walk into a classroom, you shouldn't be able to identify the pupil's religion just by looking at them." End of quote. But contrary to the ban, French Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne said that every French citizen's religion has a place in France. Footage shows high school students heading back to their schools on the first day of the new semester, and local residents in the French capital sharing their thoughts on the abaya ban.
Nous sommes dans un pays laïque. Moi, ces valeurs-là nous sont chères pour des raisons qui sont personnelles et puis qui sont aussi historiques. La France est une république qui en effet accueille des étrangers. Après, sur la partie des signes ostentatoires de culte, je pense que la bayane, alors bien évidemment c'est un effet mode, mais ça peut aussi dans certains pays ou dans certaines régions, dans certaines villes, montrer une appartenance religieuse. Donc c'est en ça que je trouve que c'est une mesure qui doit être prise avec précaution bien évidemment, qui doit être gérée notamment par l'école de façon, j'allais dire, un peu du sur-mesure. Et puis voilà, mais je trouve que c'est une mesure qui permet quand même de remettre un peu comment dirais-je, peut-être de laïcité dans l'école.
Ça paraît ne pas du tout être une priorité dans la situation dans laquelle se trouve l'école, l'éducation nationale actuellement en France, quoi, à tout niveau. Au niveau des moyens humains, des moyens matériels, du niveau scolaire. Donc voilà, c'est vrai que ça donne l'impression que c'est un peu un prétexte pour décaler de ses préoccupations.
Pour les écoles, il y a un règlement. Il faut tous les enfants porter pareil. Même si vous êtes uniforme, même si vous êtes musulman, même si vous êtes chrétien, il faut porter uniforme. C'est ça on dit uniforme. C'est pareil. Il ne faut pas que ça soit des robes longues, des foulards. Là pour moi, c'est aussi une bonne idée. Mais pour les autres, je ne sais pas. Je ne suis pas contre, mais moi je trouve ça, pour moi aussi je trouve ça c'est pas bien.
C'est compliqué comme sujet, c'est une annonce médiatique, donc je pense que ça ne va pas résoudre les gros problèmes qu'on a à l'école en France, mais par contre c'est pas mal de poser une règle un peu plus claire, puisque ça commence un petit peu dans certains lycées à poser des problèmes, voilà ce que je peux me dire.
It can be noted that France earlier banned the niqab, a full-face veil worn by Muslim women, and the United Nations Human Rights Committee said in 2018 that this violates the human rights of those who wear it. In March 2004, a law was also introduced that prohibited the wearing of signs or outfits by which students ostensibly show a religious affiliation in schools. Reports say France has an estimated 5.7 million strong Muslim community, the largest in Europe. However, this number could be greater now. This is Margaret Parkasha reporting, SMNI News.